Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night plenary. My name's Jeff Speck, and I convinced a famous musician who just happens to be a friend of mine to perform at CNU. And I told Lynn Richards, that gets me 10 minutes of your time. And she said, how about 5 minutes? And we compromised at 7. So I have 7 minutes to talk about anything I want. So first of all, welcome to the best event at CNU. Yes? You can tell me later if I was right, but I think I am right about this. And so what can I, and so these are my 7 minutes to speak to you. So first of all, have you seen that there's this thing where people who look like people in art go to the museum and dress up like the painting? So there's that, right? Cool. What else can we talk about? Who experienced the tent fiasco last night? That was hilarious. Okay. Oh yeah, there's my book. Let's talk about my book. But what I want to, actually, one thing I do want to mention to you, and I have a reading for you. But you know, a lot of people have told me that the book has been very useful to them, but they go to hearings and stuff and they hold it up, and it just isn't enough of a tool. And so I do want to announce that I'm coming out with a new book in the fall. What if Walkable City had a lot more pictures and a lot of instructions and a lot of new information, and was actually a new book that you could use to get work done, geared not towards general readership like Walkable City was, but geared towards us doing our work in the field. And that is the book that's coming out next year. And I wanted to do a little reading from it, but it's actually coming out in this year. It's coming out in October. But I wanted to do a little reading from it, not to give you a taste of the book, which is organized as a series of rules, 101 rules, where each one kind of has a name and a subtitle, and actually a rule at the end. For example, restripe streets with wide lanes to a 10-foot standard, et cetera, et cetera. Boiled down to 101 rules. But I wanted to give you a reading from the book because actually I had 101 rules and I got rid of one of them because there was something that was very much on my mind that I wanted to talk about in the book that was new. It's Rule 87 now. And Rule 87, which has nothing to do with tonight's panel, is called Don't Let Terrorists Design Your City. And Rule 87 goes like this. Here I put on my dramatic reader voice. The scene is devastating. A terrorist plows a pickup truck down a Manhattan bike path, killing 8 people and injuring almost a dozen more. The public demands a government response, and Mayor de Blasio rises to the occasion, immediately budgeting $50 million for new vehicle barriers around the city, including funding for 1,500 steel bollards costing $30,000 apiece. While people are still on edge, this commitment is largely met with approval and a feeling that our leaders are working to keep us safe. But there remains in the air a general sense that something is amiss. While it's hard to think rationally about terrorism, a cool-headed analysis of the terror threat in our cities leads to some difficult conclusions that could dramatically impact our policies and practices. 1, a bloody death is a bloody death. Somehow, when a death is intentional and an accident, when a death is intentional and an accident is instead a murder, preventing its recurrence becomes inordinately worthy of public funding, especially if the perpetrators are brown. But those who have personally witnessed a fatal car crash will confirm that the anguish, trauma, and tragic repercussions are no less than what accompanies any other violent death. A rational public safety policy would treat all lives as equal. Remarkably, taxpayers invested less than $22,000 per victim to put an end to the 186 car crash deaths on Queens Boulevard. And just to interrupt myself, you may be aware of this, that 186 people died on Queens Boulevard basically in the last 25 years until 2014, and they fixed it for I think $4 million, and now no one's died on that road since. So Remarkably, taxpayers invested less than $22,000 per victim to put an end to the car crash deaths on Queens Boulevard, while so far allocating approximately $1.7 billion per victim, as Joe Minicozy would say, do the math, $1.7 billion per victim to avenge 9/11. This discrepancy deserves our attention. 2, terrorism is statistically insignificant. There are different ways to do the math, but an objective accounting of several decades of data suggests that you are 568 times less likely to die in a terror attack than in a car crash. Fewer people were killed in the New York truck attack than have died in traffic practically every 2 weeks before and since. A proper epidemiological approach to public health and safety would allocate resources proportionally to the dangers that they address. 3, there is always a soft target. It is impossible to harden an entire city. This fact is perhaps the greatest source of cognitive dissonance surrounding New York's Bollard campaign. For every bike path and sidewalk newly protected, there will remain hundreds exposed. If all public spaces receive bollards, an impossibility, a terrorist need only take an AR-15 to a hotel room window. In this way, we are doomed to be always protecting against the last attack instead of the next and misspending millions on what is effectively security theater. Oh, I forgot my picture. Security theater. The anti-terrorist landscape is terrifying. The purpose of terrorism is not principally to hurt people, but to cause panic and to unravel the social fabric. In that regard, a built environment that loudly proclaims the expectation of attack is in itself a form of terrorism, inciting fear, uncertainty, and suspicion in one's fellow man. Just like subway stop and frisks and a constant barrage of see something, say something messages, explicitly hardened public spaces are best understood as artifacts of a complicit terror industrial complex that profits by keeping us scared. The fact that most actors in this drama are well-meaning should not distract us from resisting its grip. Next, bollards can be nice. In Cities for People, the Danish planner Jan Gehl, heard of him, notes how most people enjoying Siena's Piazza del Campo choose to linger near the large stone bollards that surround the space. Bollards are traditional street furniture and, if designed well, need not participate in a terrorist threat that they may be naively responding to. If de Blasio's bollards are attractive, well-crafted, and well-located, they can become a positive feature of the spaces that they inhabit, rather than a permanent emblem of our panic, concrete evidence that the terrorists are winning. But they are still money wasted. Public safety dollars can be spent in a way that has a real impact. With limited investment, child traffic deaths in the Netherlands went from more than 400 in 1971 to just 14 in 2010. A small fraction of our current anti-terror budgets transferred to road safety would save thousands of lives. And then we end with the rule, right? Every rule ends with the rule. Resist the compulsion to throw money away on anti-terror infrastructure, speaking honestly about risk, effectiveness, and proven paths to better public safety. Redirect funding accordingly to street redesign. And I challenge the CNU to back me on this, because it's a political hot potato. Yes, please clap if you agree. Okay. So, now to the main event.